In this lower manifestation, apara prakriti, this eternal.
One small request, Dhaval, can you read from the beginning so that the recording is complete?
Ah, yeah, sure. The Jivatman, the psychic being, and Prakriti. The spirit is the Atman, Brahman, essential divine. When the one divine manifests, its ever inherent multiplicity, this essential self or Atman becomes for that manifestation the Jivatman, the central being, who presides from above over the evolution of its personalities uh, and terrestrial lives here, but is itself an eternal portion of the divine. And prior to the terrestrial manifestation, para prakritir jiva bhuta. In this lower manifestation, apara prakriti, this eternal portion of the divine appears as the soul, a spark of this divine fire, supporting the individual evolution, supporting the mental, vital, and physical being. The psychic being is the spark growing into a fire, evolving with the growth of the consciousness. The psychic being is therefore evolutionary, not like the Jivatman prior to the evolution. But man is not aware of the self or Jivatman. He is aware only of his ego, or he is aware of the mental being, which controls the life and the body. But more deeply, he becomes aware of his soul or psychic being as his true center, the Purusha in the heart. The psychic is the central being in the evolution. It proceeds from and represents the Jivatman, the eternal portion of the divine. When there is full consciousness, the Jivatman and the psychic being join together. The ego is a formation of nature, but it is not a formation of physical nature alone. Therefore, it does not cease with the body. There is a mental and vital ego also. The base material the base of the material consciousness here is not only the ignorance but the inconscience. That is, the consciousness is involved in form of matter and energy of matter. It is not only the material consciousness, but the vital and the mental too that are separated from the truth by the ignorance. Beautiful paragraph. Yeah. Should I stop here, Anmol Bhai? So that because there are 3 stars there, so that's
Yeah, that's. I mean, is section में there are a few more letters, but I would say it is better to go one by one.
so each star is a separate letter, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
For clarification, this may not be the entire letter written by him, in the sense this may be a portion of a letter. ऐसा भी
Oh,
कभी-कभी
okay.
लिखा है, हाँ. Most of the times it is the complete letter. Sometimes it is a snippet from a letter. Yeah. I had also heard that sometimes for the sake of making the book, they have combined portions from 2 letters, but उसका मुझे प्रमाण नहीं है. But snippet होने का तो है, because I have read Dileep's correspondence in full, and at places one finds कि ये वाला जो उसमें से है, this is from the full letter to Dileep Kumar Roy, like that.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, 13 participants. Who else? Okay, Shweta, Trupti Nerkar, okay. Krinali Nayak, okay. Anjali ji is, ठीक है. Ritu Gandhi, okay. So Is there anybody who is joining these sessions for the... Okay, just for the sake of, because there are a few new people. So basically this series is for the essays on the Gita. We are reading the verses from the second chapter on the Gita. We are on those verses 2.10 to 2. Around 20, 2.30, 20 verses on the self, the soul, the jiva. So Sri Aurobindo has clarified between the jivatman, the psychic being, and the soul spark. So therefore, like 3 or 4 sessions ago, we have sort of branched out to the letters on yoga, where this clarity is there. And for a few more sessions, we will be reading about the jivatman, the psychic being, and the soul from the letters on yoga. This is for those who are joining these sessions for the first time, as some people are. All right. So the spirit is the Atman, Brahman, essential, divine. Okay. Yeah. Essential he defines later on as कि जैसे the jewelry made out of gold and gold itself. So gold is the essence, and the jewelry made out of gold is the formation of gold. Essence is the gold. That is how he clarifies in another letter. Okay. So the spirit is the Atman, Brahman, essential, divine. Divine ke corresponding, Atman and Brahman are Sanskrit words. Divine ke corresponding, the Sanskrit word is Deva. Like in Marathi, for the divine, they just call Deva directly. Okay. So Deva is the word. Gita mein clarification ke liye, our main book of study, the word that is used there is Deva Deva, God of gods. But basically the equivalent Sanskrit word is Deva. Okay. When the one divine manifests its ever inherent multiplicity. So multiplicity is ever inherent in the divine. It can come out of it whenever he wishes it to. This essential self or Atman. Self is the English word for Atman. ऊपर में वो जो find कर रहे हैं, the spirit is, the question must have been asked. The question is not printed, so sometimes we are not sure why exactly he's writing like this, but he must have asked for the clarification of these terms. Okay. This essential self or Atman becomes for that manifestation the Jivatman. Mane, when the divine from his ever inherent multiplicity manifests that multiplicity, by becoming an individual, then that essential self or Atman, for that particular manifestation, it becomes the Jivatman. Okay. In other words, Jivatman is nothing but the multiple divine. The divine having assumed his multiple poise, his poise of multiplicity. What is the Jivatman? The central being who presides from above over the evolution of its personalities. Preside ke liye, the Sanskrit word, it helps to understand a president, Adhyaksha. So Adhi mane upar, Aksha mane dekhna. So he who sees from above. Okay. The central being who presides from above over the evolution of its personalities and terrestrial lives here, but is itself an eternal portion of the divine and, see, prior to the terrestrial manifestation. So when this terrestrial means earthly manifestation, terra means earth. When the terrestrial manifestation had not started, still the worlds were there. The subtle worlds were there. Subtle matter, vital worlds, mental worlds, all that is there in the book 2 of Savitri. What is it called? The book of the traveler of the worlds, right? So prior to the terrestrial, these worlds were already existing. Okay. But that was just for, additional knowledge sake. It is an eternal portion of the divine. Eternal portion of the divine ke liye several times we have referred to this shloka, 15.7 of the Gita. Mamai Vamsho, the word for portion is Amsha. Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhutaha Sanatanaha. That is 15.7. यहाँ पे जो उन्होंने संस्कृत लिखा है, but is itself an eternal portion of the divine and prior to the terrestrial manifestation, para prakritir Jiva Bhuta. Okay. Para Prakriti means the higher Prakriti. Jiva Bhuta means it has become the Jiva. Jiva, not Jiva. Jiva. Hrasva wala hoga. This is there in Gita 7.5. Full verses. अपरेयमितस्त्वन्याम प्रकृतिम विद्धि में पराम जीवभूताम महाबाहो येदम धार्यते जगत. Okay. So जीवभूता इस फॉर्म में नहीं मिलता है, जीवभूताम के फॉर्म में है. So Sri Aurobindo with his, I mean, almost perfect knowledge, almost I am saying because English के बारे में उन्होंने कहा था he had total mastery, but even Sanskrit, the level of depth of knowledge that he had, I mean, to my knowledge, nobody has had in the, I mean, probably the entire history of mankind. So para prakriti jiva bhuta. Okay, it is the para prakriti, the higher nature, which is the Gita's word for the divine mother, what is called the Adya Shakti or the divine mother. That it is that which has become the jiva. इसमें understanding के लिए very important. Yes, just will come to you. It's an eternal portion of the divine. Those who want to note this again can note down Essays on the Gita, page 445. This is where he has clarified that shloka 15.7. Though it is much further in the study of the Gita, but still to read that page and about half of the subsequent page will help in understanding this eternal portion. Yes, Dhavalji. Dhaval bhai, you have raised your hand.
Sorry, I was speaking on mute. Can you please once again tell the difference between Jiva Bhuta and Jiva Bhutam?
So what I was saying was very simply कि in the Gita, ठीक है, the words the way it comes is अपरे यमितस्त्वन्याम अपरा इयम इतः तु अन्याम प्रकृतिम विद्धि में पराम. ओके, जीवभूताम महाबाहो. तो उसमें जो रूप है in the shloka, it is द्वितीया एक वचन. Okay, whereas here he has given it in the prathama form. परा प्रकृतिर जीव भूता. वाई आई वाज सेइंग दिस वाज कि अगर कोई परा प्रकृतिर जीव भूता एग्जैक्टली इसी संस्कृत को कॉपी पेस्ट करके गीता में ढूंढेगा तो वो मिलेगा नहीं. दिस ही हैज स्लाइटली चेंज द विभक्ति फॉर राइटिंग दिस हियर. गीता वाले श्लोक में वो द्वितीय विभक्ति में. दैट इज ऑल आई एम सेइंग.
Okay. Thank you so much. ये प्रथम विभक्ति है. That is the
प्रथमा
difference.
विभक्ति.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Little bit now and then थोड़ा grammar का रहेगा because some people here are conversant with Sanskrit grammar. तो उसके लिए, but I will try to, because it can be boring for those who do not have that much interest or this thing yet. So I'll try to keep it to the essential minimum. Okay, this much so far. Any doubt in this what we have read till now? Or
One more question was about Aditi. This is same as Aditi, right? Higher
Yes.
Prakriti. Yeah.
So Aditi is the word used in the Rig Veda. Okay, श्लोका मुझे याद नहीं है. कठोपनिषद का श्लोका अदितिर देवानाम समथिंग ऐसे करके आता है. So Aditi is one of the words used for the divine mother in the Veda and the Upanishads.
Okay.
The word Adya Shakti is associated with the Tantra. Okay, in the Gita that entity is called the Para Prakriti. गीता के अंदर माता वर्ड आता है, बट इट डज नॉट कम इन द सेंस कि मेरी शक्ति मैंने अपने अंदर से निकाली उसको माता कहते हैं. डजंट कम इन दैट फॉर्म. इट कम्स इन दैट फॉर्म. पिताहमस्य जगतः माता धाता पितामहः वेद्यम पवित्रम ओमकार ऋक्साम यजुरेव च. So when Krishna says that I am all this, there the word mata comes, but there he does not delineate or clarify specifically that this is the divine mother. तो वो word वहां पे simply it comes as one of his forms कि ये भी मैं ही हूं. I am everything, वो उस sense में आता है. The word does come, the word mata does come, but in that sense. मुझे वर्स नंबर याद नहीं आ रहा है. पिताहमस्य जगतः माता धाता पितामहः. हाँ, इस तरह से it's either in the 7th or the 9th chapter. I'll share it later. Okay?
No problem. Thank you so much.
I am the grandfather of this world. Pitamaha, pitahamasya jagatah, mata dhata pitamaha. I am the mother. Dhata mane I am the upholder. Mata dhata, pitahamasya jagatah, mata dhata, pita aham, sorry. पिता मैं हूं. पिता अहम अस्य जगतः माता धाता पितामह. वेद्यम पवित्रम ओमकार ऋक्साम यजुरेव च. I am the Pavitra Omkara in the this thing, Veda, and Rik Sama Yajur. All this is me only. All this is, this all this is me only. This is not separate from me. ये सब मैं ही. इस तरह के 4 verses हैं, very beautiful, especially when you chant them in sequence. Very, very beautiful, very powerful. I'll make it a point to share all those 4 verses on the WhatsApp group. All right. Chat में somebody. Chapter 9, verse 17, Krinali Naik. Thank you, Krinali. So I think 17 के फिर आसपास ही होंगे बाकी चारों. 17, 18, 19 होगा या उसके जस्ट एक दो पहले होंगे. हाँ, अहम क्रतुरहम यज्ञ यहाँ से शुरू होता है. So it is 16, 17, 18 and 19. These 4 verses from the 9th chapter. Thank you, Pranali. Right? So, moving forward. But man is not aware of the self or Jivatman. He is aware only of his ego. Ego is part of the lower nature, that which is the binding mechanism of the lower nature. Okay. Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu kham mano buddhirev cha ahankar iti yamme bhinnah prakritir ashtadha. फिर अगले वाले अपरा अपरा करके वो क्लैरिफाई करते हैं. सो दिस इज द लोअर अपरा इमा अपरे मियतस्त्वन्याम ऐसे करके, बट दैट इज द एट फोल्ड प्रकृति. उसमें अहंकार is the fulcrum, not the fulcrum, but basically the binding mechanism around which the whole of these, whole of the lower nature is held together, organized. All right. So man is not aware of the self or Jivatman. He is aware only of his ego, the thing which gives him the sense of being an individual as distinct from other individuals. Okay. Or he is aware of the mental being which controls the life and the body. या तो मैं का सेंस है या फिर मेंटल बीइंग का सेंस है कि I as the thinker or the mental being am controlling or am supposed to control the life and the body. In a large part of our activities, the life and the body do tend to sway away the mind also. So to say that the mind is controlling the life and the body is also cannot be a general statement for everybody. Remove pin. Okay. ये मेरा raise hand कैसे हो गया? It's not going somehow. Doesn't matter. I can ignore it. But more deeply, he becomes aware of his soul or psychic being. From what we had read earlier, the soul is the same as what he earlier called the spark soul or the soul spark. But more deeply, he becomes aware of his soul or psychic being as his true center, the Purusha in the heart. Okay.
Anmol, this is a very good point to reflect that there is a reality of the individual only identifying with the mind or the ego, and at a deeper level, identifying with the spark or the psychic being.
Yeah.
So how do you distinguish between these two states and what the sentence is trying to tell us? Like
Abhi
10 years back.
You mean distinguish between what? Identifying with the mind and ego as opposed to the soul, yeah, what exactly?
No. So see, what he's saying is that in most cases, you identify with the ego or at best the mind, which is controlling the vital and the physical. But at a deeper level, the next sentence is at a deeper level. This means for people who are on the spiritual path.
More deeply means when because of whatever reason, okay, there a certain amount of depth has been gained by you, but more deeply.
Correct.
As he becomes more deep in his consciousness.
Correct.
This is what.
And by that means he finally becomes aware of the psychic being, which is the spiritual personality.
Finally, nahi. It's an intermediate thing. Final tab when there is the full consciousness. Okay? Because do not forget, the psychic or the soul is also the representative of the Jivatman.
Correct.
It is prior to the terrestrial manifestation. That is the reality. Okay. So final
so it is
when
one step above.
Joins its awareness with the Jivatman. But yes, if ka to question hi nahi hai, when the psychic being or soul is found as the true center in oneself, that is a great achievement. One has known oneself as a center of the divine and gotten free largely from the clutches of the ego.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay. Most welcome. But more deeply, he becomes aware of his soul or psychic being as his true center, the Purusha in the heart. ठीक है, मैं अभी क्लैरिफाई कर दे रहा हूं एंटिसिपेट करके, हालांकि वो क्लैरिटी आएगी बाद में. When he says the Purusha in the heart for soul or psychic being, do not assume or imagine that it is the same as the Ishvaraha Sarvabhutanam Hriddeshe Tishtati of the Gita of 18.61. वो ईश्वर है, दैट इज नॉट द सोल. वो सोल की भी सोल है, इट इज द भगवान हिमसेल्फ. ओके, दिस इज द पुरुषा इन द हार्ट. हालांकि इसकी प्राप्ति होने से उसका ग्लिम्स मिल जाता है, ठीक है, बट स्टिल देयर इज अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन द टू. दिस इज अ पोर्शन एंड I am not raising my hand. How come is it getting raised? Again, this doesn't matter.
Anmol, it is, sorry to cut you in between.
हाँ.
It is due to the gesture you are raising your hand, right? So
ओ, तो वो
catching.
रिकॉग्नाइज कर रहा है इस वजह से.
Yes, yes, yes.
हो. Okay, I don't know. It doesn't matter. So the soul or the purusha in the heart जो वो यहाँ कह रहे हैं, that is a portion. Swati, please mute yourself. Okay, but it should not be thought that this is the same as the Ishvara. The divine, we are the divine, soham asmi and all that जो आता है उसमें, it is true, ठीक है, but I mean there is a distinction between the Ishvara and the Jiva. This needed to be said here. Okay. The soul is containing the divine within itself actually. वो उसके अंदर है. That is why, because anybody who has read the Gita deeply can question me here and now itself. 15.8 में गीता में the word that is used in the 15.7 is Jiva, whereas in 15.8 it is called Ishvara. ठीक है, बहुत एंटिसिपेशन हो रहा है, अभी तो हम सेकंड चैप्टर पे हैं गीता के, बट वो मे बी जब आएगा तब देखेंगे. अभी के लिए जस्ट इतना क्लैरिफाई करना था कि द ईश्वरा इन द हार्ट ऑफ 18.61 ऑफ द गीता इज नॉट द सेम थिंग एज दिस हियर. ठीक है, यहां पे केवल हम सोल की बात कर रहे हैं, साइकिक बीइंग की बात कर रहे हैं. ओके, सो बट मोर डीपली ही बिकम्स अवेयर ऑफ हिज सोल और साइकिक बीइंग as his true center, the Purusha in the heart. The psychic is the central being in the evolution. Acha, हाँ, I forgot to add why this distinction is necessary. Because otherwise this can lead to a very terrible ego कि मैं ही भगवान हूं. And this is an asuric quality. 16th chapter में वर्स आता है, ईश्वरो हम अहम भोगी सिद्धो हम बलवान सुखी. ये वो आसुरिक क्वालिटीज को जब बोल रहे हैं उसमें वो आता है ईश्वरो हम, कि मैं ईश्वर हूं. ठीक है, तो दैट इज ऑब्वियसली आसुरिक. ओके, द साइकिक इज द सेंट्रल बीइंग इन द एवोल्यूशन. इट प्रोसीड्स फ्रॉम एंड रिप्रेजेंट्स द जीवात्मा, द इटर्नल पोर्शन ऑफ द डिवाइन. When there is the full consciousness, one second, the psychic is the central being in the evolution. Okay, now slightly we have to pause here because ये word central being पहले भी use हुआ था इसमें. One second. हाँ, yes. So here he says the central being who presides from above over the evolution of its personalities. So this is the true central being. But from the point of view of evolution, it is the psychic which is the central being. Okay, so very simple thing, but just these, क्योंकि term same है तो confusion नहीं होना चाहिए. Okay, so this psychic being is the central being is in the evolution. It proceeds from, उसका प्रभाव कहां से होता है? From the जीवात्मन, and represents the जीवात्मन. वो उसका प्रतिनिधि है. What is the जीवात्मन? An eternal portion of the divine. Okay, now ये last time हमने letter पढ़ा था, only we had not read it deeply. Very important sentence, very very important. When there is the full consciousness, the जीवात्मन and the psychic being join together. So the psychic being realizes that even though it is going from birth to birth into different bodies, गीता का जो श्लोक था, देहिनोस्मिन् यथा देहे कौमारम यौवनम जरा तथा देहांतर प्राप्ति ही धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति. Just as there is youth and little mature age and old age, similarly there is the taking up of a new body. So even though I, as the psychic being, this is 2.13, am, जिसको उसमें बोलते हैं transmigrating or reincarnating from one body to another, yet when it has the full consciousness and it joins with the Jivatman, it knows that it is the unborn. उसके पहले उसको ये सेंस नहीं होगा, उसके पहले it will feel itself bound to the cycle of birth and death. In other words, when this has happened, when the Jivatman and the psychic being have joined together, then you know that you are the unborn. जो गीता का 2.20 था, न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित नायम भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. And once this has happened, you are free from the cycle of rebirth, what is called mukti in India. ठीक है, you are free. Then you can come. फिर वो जो ईशा का जो what are those verses, 15 के पहले जो 3 है, 12, 13, 14, संभूत्यामृतमश्नुते, by the birth you enjoy immortality, right? Then you can enjoy that immortality and you can come to help others. But आपका जो personal evolution है वो पूरा हो चुका है. It's very clear. Then basically that, at least that human part, or it's difficult to define it because वो कैसे define किया जाए, वो तो it's a infinite kind of condition. But basically the mukti has happened. You are free from the cycle of birth and death. And Sri Aurobindo, what he says very clearly in the Synthesis of Yoga, a very, very important point for those who are students of Sri Aurobindo, mukti is not the final goal according to Sri Aurobindo. It's a milestone. Once you have attained the mukti, okay, you should be willingly, happily participating in this terrestrial manifestation and taking it forward, transforming this earth into a heaven. And all the other souls which are still struggling with the ignorance, you help them to come out of the ignorance. To illustrate this point, Sri Aurobindo gives examples of 3 people in Synthesis of Yoga: Swami Vivekananda, Maitreya Buddha, and somebody called Ranti Dev from the Bhagavad Puran. वो भी मैं, I'll make it a point to, because very important from the point of view of fundamental clarity कि हम जो अगर इंटेग्रल योगा प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं, if you are trying to follow Sri Aurobindo, what is our aim? So from that point of view, it is a very important point to know. Okay, right? So when there is the full consciousness, the Jivatman and the psychic being joined together. 833. The ego is a formation of nature. Of which nature? Lower nature, according to the Gita. Apara Prakriti. Simply called nature. But it is not a formation of physical nature alone. Because it is having all 3. There is a mental ego, there is a vital ego, there is a physical ego. It's not just physical nature. Therefore, it does not cease with the body. There is a mental and vital ego also. So it is the ego sense which gives the physical the sense of being a distinct physical from other physicals. Okay, it is the ego sense which gives the individual vital the sense of being an individual and distinct from other individual vitals. And that is where the clashes happen most of the time, in the vital egos. Okay, it is this ego which gives the sense to the mental being, to the individual mind, the sense of being distinct from other minds, other mental beings. और ये उसके खुद के डेवलपमेंट के लिए in the initial stages it is necessary. Ego is the helper, ego is the bar, he says in one of his aphorisms. Ego is necessary till that individuality has been formed, and formed quite cohesively. Then basically इसीलिए when you do yoga ना, तो one feels as if there is a kind of death happening, because अब तक जिस सारी चीज ने आपको बांध करके रखा हुआ था वो बिखरने लगती है. In the process of the psychic being taking over from the ego, that tends to melt. You're like, what is happening? I'm losing myself. So it is important to have this knowledge to cross over that passage. right? Because we are so accustomed to the ego keeping us together. वो ego ही खत्म होने लगेगी तो we have that sense. इसमें भी there is an important point. I'm just sharing whatever I've experienced in my this thing. Sometimes in spiritual these things there is a tendency to कि ego हटानी है तो to make it submit or become like a doormat basically so much कि you lose your self-esteem even. That should not be the case. Sri Aurobindo does not say that. Okay. It is necessary, of course. I mean, there's a fine line between the two. It is necessary as an instrument of nature for building up the individuality. Mother says, if you do not have an individuality, what are you going to offer to the divine? In order to offer to the divine, पहले कुछ होना तो चाहिए. And it is that individuality which is formed by that process of, but अगर उसमें आप ego ही कह रहे हैं तो let it be an enlightened ego, a kind of sattvic thing. Okay, it should not be very, very rigid and violent and all that. Okay, that's the thing. Very simple things, but sometimes can be fine points. So I'm trying to clarify. The ego is a formation of nature, but is not a formation of physical nature alone. Therefore, it does not cease with the body. There is a mental and vital ego also. The base of the material consciousness here is not only the ignorance, but the inconscience. Difference क्या है? Ignorance में कम से कम थोड़ी knowledge होती है. You know that you are ignorant. At least that much you know. In the inconscience, it is supposed to be total darkness. Why I'm saying supposed to be? Because there can be no such thing as totally dark, because it is the divine alone who is there, and it is the divine alone who becomes everything, and it is the divine who has become the inconscient. So it is as if that complete light has assumed a poise of complete darkness. But that as if, Sanskrit में जिसको इवा बोलते हैं, that needs to be kept in mind. But the inconscience, as if you have totally become unconscious of yourself, there is no light, as if. That is, the consciousness is involved in form of matter and energy of matter. In material forms, he has just completely covered himself. He does not even, a stone does not, a stone does not know that he is the divine, right? But even in that stone, the divine is there. Energy of matter. It is only the material it is not only the material consciousness, but the vital and the mental too that are separated from the truth by the ignorance. Okay. What is the difference between individuality and personality? Okay. Sir, is there a specific why the first nature has a capital N? कौन से sentence में? 1 second. Swati Agrawal left. Okay. Capital N, where was it? Yeah, the ego is a formation of nature.
Yes, sir, in this paragraph itself.
Yeah.
So because the first word where nature comes in, the capital N is used, and then later on, while the physical nature is specified, it is used differently. So that is why. And you specified that the first nature is the apara prakriti, as mentioned by Shri Krishna in the Gita. So
yeah, the ego is a formation of nature. See, number one, there is one nature, okay? As a whole, अगर आप देखें, आप fundamentals को समझिए, capital small वगैरह अपने आप समझ में आ जाएगा if you understand the fundamentals. So, what is nature के लिए Sanskrit always helps here. What is nature called in Sanskrit? Prakriti. Okay? कैसे बना है ये शब्द? pra meaning going forward and kriti meaning creation. क्री धातु से. इंग्लिश का क्रिएट भी वहीं से आता है, राइट? सो व्हेन द डिवाइन वांट्स टू मैनिफेस्ट हिमसेल्फ और व्हेन ही वांट्स टू क्रिएट, देन ही लेट्स आउट हिज क्रिएटिव पावर, व्हिच इज कॉल्ड द डिवाइन मदर और व्हिच इज कॉल्ड द परा प्रकृति इन द गीता. ओके, नाउ यहां पे जो बोल रहे हैं, द ईगो इज अ फॉर्मेशन ऑफ नेचर. सी, ईगो इज पार्ट ऑफ द लोअर नेचर. तो आई एम नॉट, बिकॉज नेचर normally he uses the word capital for things of the higher hemisphere. Normally. Okay. So unless you want to say that it is the higher nature which has become ego for the purposes of holding together the eightfold this thing. Otherwise, it's a matter of, I'm not exactly sure कि why यहाँ पे capital N है. Capital N is generally used for the higher parts.
Yes, sir.
Unless
I asked it from
of
that
something
perspective.
very big, because nature is जो executive force है ना, it is nature which is doing everything. Nature is all powerful in this domain, so maybe for that purpose, that could be one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Dhaval Bhai's question: what is the difference between individuality and personality? Individuality is all of us are individuals, and personality is the different personalities that we don in different lives. The same individual dons different personalities in different lifetimes, or even multiple personalities. Like in this lifetime, I could have carried over personalities from many of my previous lives, but I am the same individual carrying forward the same line of manifestation. Is it clear?
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, one more question I have in from the earlier paragraph, which I forgot to ask. It was
Yes.
about Purusha, right? You mentioned it's not the same as Ishvara.
My only point there was to try to clarify that one should not think that the soul and the Ishvara in that sense are same. और
Correct,
उसमें
correct.
भी जो गीता का 16th chapter का ना ईश्वर हम अहम भोगी, this is the utterance of the asura. So as a warning towards that, and for conceptual clarity also, because the divine is the soul of the soul. वो आत्मा की भी आत्मा है. ठीक है? जैसे बताया था कि गीता में जो फ्रेज उसके लिए आता है in the 6th chapter, सर्वभूतात्म भूतात्मा कुर्वन्नपि न लिप्यते. वो जो सारे भूतों की आत्मा की जो
आत्मा
है,
है,
वो सब कुछ करते हुए भी लिप्त नहीं होता.
So in that sense, Purusha is meta level, right?
पुरुषा is
meta level, Atma ki Atma, like in that sense, right? Atmao ki Atma. But what
नहीं.
I wanted to ask was, yeah, is it same as Narayana or no?
No.
Okay. Then, acha.
Narayana,
Hello.
again, in what sense you are using? See, you have to, it's not that it is not the divine, it is the divine. Okay. But it is the divine in an individual poise. It is not that you and I are the divine. That's all I'm trying to say. Very simple point. Nothing very complicated about this.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Bas.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, thanks.
18.61 में जो लिखा है ईश्वरः सर्वभूतानां हृद्देशे अर्जुन तिष्ठति, वहां पे जो वर्ड ईश्वर है दैट इज अ पर्यायवाची, अ सिनोनिम फॉर पुरुषोत्तम, परब्रह्म, परमात्मा, परमेश्वर. ठीक है? वहां पे परम ईश्वर वर्ड नहीं लगाया है. फॉर क्लैरिटी सेक ही कुड हैव पुट द परम, बट मे बी द मीटर डिड नॉट अलाउ इट. But the word Ishvara there means Purushottama, and you and I, and we are not Purushottama. We are Jiva. ये clarity रहनी चाहिए. We can have a certain, in our consciousness, we can attain a union with the Purushottama, and then we can know that we are one with him. But that does not mean that we are the Purushottama. We can be like that and function like that when the Purushottama wants us to function with a certain level of power. Okay? But हमें अपनी जो वास्तविकता है, जो अपनी असलियत है, वो हमें भ्रम नहीं होना चाहिए उसके बारे में. And our truth is that we are eternal portions of the eternal. Now, when I say this, it should not be thought that we are limited in power. We are not. जैसे हमने फर्स्ट लेटर में पढ़ा था, all the potentialities are there in the soul. So as much power can flow out of us, as much we have, deserved by the process of purification and the process of yoga to manifest. Okay. It does not mean that we are restricted and all that. Okay. Again, there is a fine line. But ultimately, it is the divine who is the divine and not the souls. That is all very, very simple point that I'm trying to say. But वो just वो ego का कहीं खेल ना आ जाए, उसको avoid करने के लिए. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We noticed you have spoken, so we will lower your hand in 3 seconds. Oh,
Key sentence which you mentioned. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
chat, somebody. Okay. The body is not the individual self. I'm reading the next letter.
Anmol, before
sir.
we move to the next letter,
Yes.
in this, it categorically says that at a deeper level, once the person goes beyond the ego or the mental consciousness, he has the potential for the psychic being to completely become one with the Jivatma.
Yeah.
Now, if we go back to the letter and the readings we had done on the previous session, he categorically defined three aspects being the Jivatma, the spark soul, and the psychic being. So here he's saying, so where is the soul, the spark soul, which is entering into the body? This is what the letter had said, the previous one. So when you identify with the psychic being identifies with the Jivatman, what is the role of the spark soul, which is sitting within us? Uska to zikr ही नहीं आया इस
Psychic
letter
being
में.
is nothing but वो soul का
Personality.
एक formation है. It's nothing but there is no real difference between the soul and the psychic being. It is the soul which put forwards that personality for gaining experience, जिसको psychic being बोलते हैं. Soul और psychic being में essentially कोई difference नहीं है. The role of the soul, that in that sense you can say the role of the spark soul is कि जितनी भी potentialities उसके अंदर hidden है, once that union with the Jivatman has been done, then all those potentialities will come out, or whatever is meant to manifest through that particular individual, they will come out. फिर कोई भी potentiality hidden नहीं रहेगी.
So Anmol, my understanding, because in that previous letter, it said the psychic being is the spiritual personality,
Put forward
and the
by
full,
correct.
the full spiritual entity within us, which takes part of the human form, was the spark, the spark of the soul, right? So the personality is evolving because it's a personality, but the real true essence of the Jivatman is the spark.
Yeah,
Divine,
yes.
which is the divinity here.
Yes.
So the point I was trying to
It
make
is
is
the
that
spark soul which is having all the potentialities within itself. Correct.
correct. So till you don't become that spark soul, you
have
are
become,
only an
यही तो कह रहे हैं,
aspect of
but
the
more
personality.
deeply, he becomes aware of his soul or psychic being as his true center. So when
Right.
you become aware of your psychic being, you become aware of your soul.
Okay.
You know
Okay,
that this
that makes
thing in me, this is my true center, and this is nothing but a psychic personality or a formation of this thing, the soul. Okay? And that's what he's saying here, basically.
Because you remember when we were discussing, there was the total, you remember we had the three concentrations that we talked about, that there was when you completely identify with the ego or you identify with the mental being, it was a concentrated consciousness, and then there was a multiple concentration of consciousness, and then there was an integral concentration of consciousness.
We have not discussed this. In this series, we have not discussed.
I think I was trying to link that with Isha, but it's okay. I've understood. Thanks.
I have not actually attended those classes. Okay. So the body is not the individual self. It is the basis of the external personality or of the physical self, if you like so to express it, but that is not the individual self. The individual self is the central being, Jivatma, manifesting in the lower nature as the psychic being. It is directly a portion of the divine. So the body is not the individual self. This is what इसको कहते हैं देहात्मिका बुद्धि, the intelligence that identifies the self with the body. So no, this should be got rid of. I am not the body. The body is not my true self. The body is not the individual self. Okay, it is the basis of the external personality or of the physical self. ठीक है, शरीर माध्यम खलु धर्म साधनम जैसे बोलते हैं कि वो आधार है सारे धर्म को पालन करने का. It is the basis. Okay, it is the basis of the external personality or of the physical self, if you like so to express it. But that is not the individual self. Mane, the physical self, this is not the individual self. That is why physical self mein the S is small and individual self mein the S is bigger. Okay. The individual self, capital S, is the central being, Jivatma, manifesting in the lower nature as the psychic being. It is directly a portion of the divine, which the physical self is not. It is not directly. Ultimately, everything has come from the divine, so everything is a portion of the divine, including the physical. Okay, but it is not directly a portion of the divine. That's what he's saying here. Is it clear? Shall we move to the next letter? There's a longish one, so somebody will read it. It's better. Thoda padne se na, that quite long actually. but still I would like somebody to read it. It's better. ये वाला clear है? Is there any doubt in anybody's mind regarding this? Very simple actually. So, okay. Who would like to read the next one? Krinali, would you like to read?
Yes, sir, I can.
Please. Yeah, so the soul representative.
Yes, sir. The soul, representative of the central being, is a spark of the divine, supporting all individual existence in nature. The psychic being is a conscious form of that soul growing in the evolution, in the persistent process that develops first life in matter, mind in life, until finally mind can develop into overmind and overmind into supramental truth. The soul supports the nature in its evolution through these grades, but is itself not any of these things. So
Next
do I
one.
continue?
Yes, please read the whole letter.
Okay. The lower nature, apara prakriti, is the external objective and superficial subjective apparent nature which manifests all these minds, lives, and bodies. The supreme nature, para prakriti, concealed behind it is the very nature of the divine, a supreme consciousness, force which manifests the multiple divine as the many. These many are in themselves eternal selves of the Supreme in his supreme nature, Paraprakriti. Here, in relation to this world, they appear as the Jivatmas supporting the evolution of the natural existences, Sarva Bhutani, in the mutable becoming, which is the life of the Kshara, mobile or mutable Purusha. Mobile or mutable Purusha. The Jiva, which is equal to Jivatma, and the creatures, Sarva Bhutani, are not the same thing. The Jivatmas really stand above the creation, even though in it, the natural existences, Sarva Bhutani, are the creatures of nature. Man, bird, beast, reptile are natural existences, but the individual self in them is not even for a moment characteristically man, bird, beast, or reptile. In its evolution, it is the same through all these changes, a spiritual being that consents to the play of nature. What is original and eternal forever in the divine is the being. What is developed in consciousness, conditions, forces, forms, etc., by the divine power is the becoming. The eternal being, the eternal divine is the being. The universe in time and all that is apparent in it is a becoming. The eternal being in its superior nature, Paraprakriti, is at once one and many. But the eternal multiplicity of the divine, when it stands behind the created existences, Sarva Bhutani, appears as, or as we say, becomes the Jiva. This is the meaning of the Paraprakriti. Paraprakritir Vibhuta. Jiva Bhuta. Okay. In the psychic, on the other hand, there are two aspects: the psychic existence or soul behind, and in front, the form of individuality it takes in its evolution in nature. The soul or psychic is immutable only in the sense that it contains all the possibility of the divine within it. But this is it.
But this, it has to evolve.
Yes, but this, yes,
I'm just, yes.
Yeah. But this, it has to evolve, and its evolution, it assumes the form of a developing psychic individual, evolving in the manifestation, the individual Prakriti, and taking part in the evolution. It is the spark of the divine fire that grows behind the mind, vital and physical, by means of the psychic being, until it is able to transform the Prakriti of ignorance into a Prakriti of knowledge. This evolving psychic being is not, therefore, at any time all that the soul or essential psychic existence bears within it. It temporalizes and individualizes what it eternal is in potentiality, transcendent in essence, in this projection of the spirit. The central being is the being which presides over the different births, one after the other, but is itself unborn, for it does not descend into the being, but is above it, It holds together the mental, vital, and physical being and all the various parts of the personality, and it controls the life either through the mental being and the mental thought and will, or through the psychic being, whichever may happen to be most in front or most powerful in action. If it does not exercise its control, then the consciousness is in great disorder and every part of the personality acts for itself so that there is no coherence in the thought, feelings, or action. The psychic is not above, but behind. Its seat is behind the heart. Its power is not knowledge, but an essential or spiritual feeling. It has the clearest sense of the truth and a sort of inherent perception of it, which is of the nature of soul feeling. It is our inmost being and supports all the others, mental, vital, physical, but it is also much wielded by them and has to act upon, wielded by them and has to act upon them as an influence rather than by sovereign right of direct action. Its direct action becomes normal and preponderant only at a high stage of development or by yoga. It is not the psychic being which you feel gives you the intuitions of things to be or warns you against the results of certain actions. That is some part of the inner being, sometimes the inner mental, sometimes the inner vital, sometimes it may be the inner or subtle physical Purusha. The inner being, inner mind, inner vital, inner or subtle physical knows much that is unknown to the outer mind, the outer vital, the outer physical, for it is not in more direct contact with the secret forces of nature. The psychic is the inmost being of all, a perception of truth which is inherent in the deepest substance of the consciousness, a sense of the good, true, beautiful, the divine is its privilege. The central being, the Jivatma, which is not born or nor evolves, but presides over the individual birth and evolution, puts forward a representative of himself on each plane of consciousness. On the mental plane, it is the true mental being, Manomaya Purusha. On the vital plane, the true vital being, Pranamaya Purusha. On the physical plane, the true physical being, Annamaya Purusha. Each being, therefore, is so long as the ignorance lasts, centered round his mental, vital, or physical Purusha, according to the plane on which he predominantly lives, and that is to him his central being. But the true representative all the time is concealed behind the mind, vital and physical. It is the psychic, our inmost being. When the inmost knowledge begins to come, we become aware of the psychic being within us, and it comes forward and leads the sadhana. We become aware also of the Jivatma, the individual self or spirit, above the manifestation of which the psychic is the representative here.
Thank you. पूरा उन्होंने खोल के रख दिया है इसमें, his whole, मतलब in some, at least in a summary form, and the whole depth of yogic psychology which Sri Aurobindo has revealed. It's 8:58.
Anmol, just one point here.
Yes, please.
As compared to the previous letter, I
Yeah.
feel that here he's clearly distinguished between the psychic being, the spark soul, and the Jivatman, which was there in the previous letter. The letter that we just completed explaining, I think he's interchangeably, when he says the psychic being, actually it may be implying the soul or the spark. Because that is, here he's categorically saying it's an evolution. The
Correct.
psychic is evolving to that reality where it then knows it is the psychic entity.
Very
So
true.
the point I'm trying to make is this is a lot more clear. This current letter that we read.
And the question arises why he is doing like that. The answer may be that these are written to two different people who have a different level of understanding. तो एक की अभी उतनी डेप्थ है ही नहीं कि वो समझ पाए कि वो सोल और साइकिक बीइंग का एग्जैक्ट डिफरेंस क्या होता है. तो for that case of simplicity, yeah, maybe it's in a flow or some other reason, maybe he's writing like that. But when he wants to absolutely clarify, then he's absolutely clarifying. Again, maybe depending on the disciple also. So वही कि वो कौन किस पूछने वाला कौन था, क्या क्वेश्चन था, that is not there, but still we can gain a lot from these. इसमें जो clarity आती है,
Correct.
that is
This is
just
a
amazing.
fabulous letter.
Oh,
इसमें
it's
सब
incredible.
कुछ
This is,
बहुत
I
ही
was
अच्छी
actually
तरह
wanting to
से
read this section mainly for this letter. बहुत ही amazing है, बहुत ही amazing.
बहुत ही amazing है. Completely agree.
Yeah. So it's 9 already. We had started at 8:03. So there is no way which we can cover this.
No, I think
What
we'll
should we
start
do?
this the next time.
Huh?
इसका detail we'll get into the next time because this is it'll take the full class. ये
Yeah, I
बहुत ही
think so.
कमाल का है.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, just Anmol bhai, एक question. ये अपरा
Yes, yes.
प्रकृति would be diti, right? जो अपरा प्रकृति में
हाँ.
अदिति बोलते हैं और ये diti हो जाएगा.
You
Right?
can roughly मतलब equate like that. Actually, see, Aditi or Diti, they are called the two mothers, ना?
हाँ, बराबर है. We हाँ, correct.
Aditi माने आदित्यों की मदर, Diti माने दैत्यों की मदर. I mean, the word Daitya comes from the word Diti, the word Aditya comes from the word Aditi. But जो आप words use कर रहे हैं, that comes from the Puranic this thing, कि Diti is the mother of the demons and this thing, Aditi is the mother of the gods.
Right. So we are in the lower Prakriti, so we are the children of Diti in that sense.
In that sense. Because वो divided consciousness है. The lower Prakriti जो है वो divided है. And it is the division which is the cause of the trouble. As he amply clarifies in the Isha Upanishad, कि it is when you lose the consciousness of oneness, then you have fallen from knowledge. He defines knowledge or vidya as the consciousness of unity or oneness.
Right.
Even the devatas, for that matter, as they are shown in the Puranic stories, they are also sometimes quarreling among themselves. Why? Because at best they are having some kind of high level of sattva guna.
But they are towards
18.40.
Much higher, no? They are much towards higher because
but there is some kind of quarrel happening between them also, no? Even
true.
they are having some kind of an ego.
Correct. Indra, right.
गीता में there is a very important श्लोका, आप नंबर नोट कर लीजिए, 18.40.
Okay.
न तदस्ति पृथिव्यां वा दिवि देवेषु वा पुनः सत्वं प्रकृतिजैर्मुक्तं यदेभिः स्यात् त्रिभिर्गुणैः. मैं थोड़ा तेज बोला, मैं थोड़ा धीरे बोलता हूं. न तदस्ति पृथिव्यां वा,
मतलब सेपरेटनेस,
पुनः
पृथक. हाँ.
न तदस्ति पृथिव्यां वा दिवि देवेषु वा पुनः सत्वं प्रकृतिजैर्मुक्तं यदेभिः स्यात् त्रिभिर्गुणैः. ठीक है. इसका ट्रांसलेशन जो है शिवबंदो के उसमें, इट इज देयर इज नॉट एन एंटिटी आइदर ऑन द अर्थ और अगेन इन हेवन अमंग द गॉड्स that is not subject to the working of these three qualities born of nature.
Oh, so even devas are subjected to these three gunas.
Yes.
It clearly says this.
Very clearly. I was absolutely dumbstruck when I understood what this verse is trying to say.
I am too dumbstruck right now because this statement was like, oh, okay. So that means, but they still belong to higher lokas.
Yes, they do. They do. Anyway, but वो जो आप पूछ रहे थे उसके लिए, so
I just recall the mother's thing that even if gods have to progress, that's why she said even if gods want to progress, they'll have to take birth on earth.
They are fixed in their world. She calls them the typal worlds.
Typal world.
This is the world of evolution. Typal. This is the world where evolution happens. In fact, Vishnu Puran mein there is a set of verses where the devas are saying that blessed are those souls who have taken birth in India, और उसमें तो इंडिया का है particularly भारतवर्ष का, they can evolve to a higher state. जब हमारे पुण्य खत्म हो जाएंगे और हमको ये स्वर्गलोक से जाना पड़ेगा तो पता नहीं हम लोग कहाँ जाएंगे.
Oh, okay.
I'll share those verses on the group. They are beautiful verses to realize the importance of India also.
Oh.
वैसे आप जो कह रहे हैं दिति और अदिति, उसको आप उस सेंस में भी ले सकते हैं. I mean, again, कैसे बोला जाए, वो एक पुराणिक सिंबल है. They are the wives of the same ऋषि. एक से वो दैत्य निकलते हैं, एक से आदित्य निकलते हैं.
Maybe that's a symbol.
That's a symbol. That's a symbol.
वो story is a symbol, right?
That is a symbol. बाकी अगर आप वैसे देखें तो from the upward plane, from the highest जो divine है, वहां से when the involution happens, So
Yeah.
everything has come from that infinite consciousness. And it is that infinite consciousness which has given birth to everything by becoming progressively limited, right?
Correct. By
Now,
self-diminution,
that you
right?
could say are the formations of Aditi when the Aditi diminishes herself progressively.
Correct. Makes
In
sense.
the
Because
opposite, you could say कि जब वो evolution होता है, तो वो जहां से evolution हो रहा है, that is that inconscient, ठीक है?
yeah,
You could say that that is that Diti, that is that broken, fragmented, infinitesimally
exactly.
fragmented thing, जिसके अंदर से evolution होता है, and greater unity is manifested from within that.
Yep. Makes
You
sense.
could say like.
Yeah. So that's Puranic story is also symbolic of probably
This
of
is
this
Savitri के अंदर, this is what is called the dark mother.
dark mother. Okay, I see. Yeah.
This phrase is there in Savitri.
Acha. Mm-hmm.
पुराणों में ना there is a lot of symbol. We Hindus में practically for all practical purposes we are Puranic. Because ऋग्वेद का base और foundation है. But as Hinduism is practiced today, it is mostly Puranic. So many times one has to build the मतलब connection between the Puranic symbols and Sri Aurobindo's this thing. Sri Aurobindo has also done it. वेद के ऊपर तो उन्होंने किया है. But Purana is a lot of symbol, and if you don't understand the meaning of the symbol, then you can be lost in the symbol and not catch the reality.
Yeah, and even sometimes laugh at it. So yeah, just like how the Westerners interpreters did
Like
that.
just session का time खत्म हो गया, but since I mentioned this, for the sake of completeness, I should add कि वो जो समुद्र मंथन की story है, for those who do not know, it will be a great revelation.
It's a
समुद्र मंथन की story
inconscient
पुराण में आती है. That समुद्र मंथन is nothing but the evolution. The samudra is nothing but the inconscient. ऋग्वेद में it is called the samudra. It is called अप्रकेतम सलिलम. अप्रकेतम माने inconscient, सलिलम माने ओशन, ठीक है? और उसी inconscient ओशन के अंदर से सब कुछ इवॉल्व कर रहा है, बाहर आ रहा है.
Beautiful,
Evolution literally means outrolling. Okay, so that is what is meant by the samudra manthan. That is what samudra manthan in the Purana means. So even the Purana is talking about the evolution only. But अगर आप वो कहो कि समुद्र मंथन तो उसके समुद्र कैसे ये निकला, वो निकला, लक्ष्मी निकली, ऐरावत निकला, finally अमृत निकला, तो people don't understand कि how it relates to me. People think it is happening in some other world. No, sir, it is happening inside you.
Correct.
जो मेरु पर्वत है, that is nothing but मेरु दंड, that is like the symbol of your spinal cord. वो जो वासुकी नाग है, that is the evolutionary energy. You could say it is the kundalini which is bringing out everything, you know.
Makes sense
Exactly.
now.
So that is why that mapping needs to be done between the Puranic symbols and the yogic truth, basically.
And that is why.
But then again, human mind ko, how are you going to explain symbolic truths? That is why the rishis, they have given it in the form of symbols and myths and all these images. Otherwise, how are you going to express the inexpressible?
Yeah, and that's why the mother also says, no, the asura, everybody carries within them the load of anti-divine. So we have
anti-divine is nothing but the initial stages of the evolution.
Yeah, Aditi aspect in us, right? The
Pitacha, Rakshasa, Asura, etc. These are the lower grades of evolution. It's nothing but that. These are the lower grades of evolution. Evolution के अंदर जब physical vital dominate करता है और mind के अंदर ego का element strong होता है, till that time the asura lasts. When the mind starts getting illuminated with the sattvic light, that is the birth of the deva, of the daivic consciousness, like that.
So what would be the birth?
We're going on and on, by the way. 9-8 हो गया.
No. Just because you are going on, so I'm taking a little bit of liberty to clarify my questions also, doubts also. So the thing is, when this Samudra Manthan or whatever is happening, Amrutam is probably the
final product. Amritam is a synonym for Ananda in the Veda. Not always, but many times. So Ananda is the next stage, even after Supermind.
Acha. So it goes beyond Vijnana.
So Anna, Prana, Manas, Vijnana, and then Ananda.
Correct.
Ananda is the stage after supramental. So abhi to supramental ke liye bhi, first of all, we have to become predominantly sattvic and mental and find our psychic being और वो सारा. तो supramental तो मतलब it will, you know, so.
And the tug of war in the Manthan between the Deva Asura Sangrama.
That is happening inside us.
Exactly. So we have both good and bad qualities, and that is what
that churning is being done by the divine and the anti-divine powers inside us. And that churning is the evolution that is happening inside us. Through that process, we are evolving.
Yep. Makes sense.
Good
This
that you mentioned it. It completes, matlab, sort of completes that thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what would be the birth into Aditi? Because I've heard many times
What
people
will be the birth into Aditi?
because
The
see,
emergence into the infinite consciousness. Because
yes,
Aditi की परिभाषा ही है, Aditi means the infinite consciousness.
so when you experience a silent mind, would it be birth of Aditi? No, because that is still an intermediary thing, right?
Now that I cannot say because my mind is not totally silent. So
No, in general, what would be symbolic or
see, silent mind means you have gone beyond the mind. So you have touched, matlab, infinity. That's what it means.
it is touched but not realized. So it's experienced but not realized.
I would पता नहीं, I can't realize उसको कहते हैं, see, experience realization में वो भेद नहीं है जो आप कह रहे हैं, ठीक है? Experience realize में भेद ये है, experience means it comes and goes.
Yeah,
Realization
temporary.
is
Experience
fixed.
is, yeah,
So if
exactly.
you are established in the silent mind, that matlab there is no mind anymore. Mind is gone. Mind has become silent. That means you are dwelling in infinity. You are dwelling in the self.
Right. So that's the difference between experience and realization. One is temporary, experience is temporary, realization is permanent.
Experience is the build-up. Realization is when that thing has become stable.
Stable, exactly. The permanent basis it has obtained.
Correct.
Right. So this is still somewhere Sri Aurobindo must have clarified, no? This
Again,
part.
matlab, since you are saying it, तो I mean, जो thought आ रहा है mind में इस वक्त कि it is a supramental consciousness which is termed in the Veda as Satyam Ritam Brihatam, the true, the right, the vast. ठीक है? तो probably in the true sense the word infinity can be used only for that, because उसके पहले जो कुछ भी है, over mind भी है, even that is having its limitations. So it cannot be called the true infinite.
Yeah, it makes sense because supermind there is unity, principle of
we have
unity.
not even attained to the higher mind.
Yeah, it is beyond.
All this is just for conceptual clarity.
Correct.
Conceptually
Exactly.
clear that it is only the supramental consciousness which is the true infinite, because उसके अंदर fragmentation बिल्कुल नहीं है.
Exactly, it's principle of unity, upper hemisphere.
But let's not forget, this is conceptual and theoretical clarity. Okay.
Yeah.
As far as the journey is concerned, the focus should be on the things that have to be done immediately, on the day-to-day progress that has to be made. Sri Aurobindo ने बोला because supramental people got very fascinated. Everybody बस supramental. अरे नहीं, supramental बहुत बाद का stage है. For that, first of all, bhakti, psychic being, find that Satyam Shivam Sundaram, involve the higher mind, work on the rejection of desires, work on the rejection of ego, etc. Gradually, don't put the cart before the horse. Supermind कल मिलने वाला नहीं है. Like that.
I'm just asking.
I know you're not saying that. I'm just sharing the clarification which Sri Aurobindo shared.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Thanks a lot. This clarifies a lot. Yeah.
My pleasure. Chat में कुछ है क्या? No. Okay. So shall we be silent for half a minute, 1 minute?
Yeah, please. Yeah.